Welcome back to Action 2 News here at 6 o'clock. A new study from the United Way of Fox City is finding that 1 in 3 families in Wisconsin are struggling to make ends meet.
And these are families that work some of the most common jobs in the state, but they're unable to afford the basics like housing and childcare. In a First Alert update, Jamal James speaks with a parent living paycheck to paycheck. He's live in the Fox Valley newsroom with those details. Jamal.
That's right, Cammie and Chris. This new study says those living just above the federal poverty level should be defined as Alice households or asset limited, income constrained, and employed. With these are people with essential jobs but don't qualify for government assistance. For parents like Emily Thiel, a child care and family service manager, and her husband who works in manufacturing, any kind of assistance would help.
It's very stressful. So right now we're really just trying to dig deep and focus on surviving right now.
Thiel is just one of nearly 25% of Wisconsinites experiencing this kind of hardship. After taking care of the mortgage and groceries, she says there's roughly $330 left between the two of them. And that doesn't include smaller essentials like body wash and cleaning supplies for the house. And events like a car breaking down or a hospital visit, that can dig an even deeper hole.
You never know, new things pop up then, medical issues may happen. I mean, you never know. So right now we kind of are just focusing on getting through and also providing a good life for our kids as well.
If you need help, United Way offers a dedicated line to anyone struggling. Call 211 at any time and they'll connect you with a local program or service. Reporting live in the Fox Valley newsroom, Jamal James, Action 2 News.